I was actually thinking, I'm like, oh, I got to do a post in the group, like, please send pictures of either your Halloween costume or your kids or your pets. But if you put your fucking cat in a costume, I'm judging you.
No, they would actually murder me if I tried.
I did see,
Oh,
I forget where I was this weekend, and a dog was walking down that, and it was like in an Elvis costume, and it was phenomenal. None of the adults were dressed, but like that I was walking with. Hey, adventurers, welcome to Let's Just Go podcast. I'm Chris.
and I'm Kayla. And this week, we're going to talk to you a little bit about the different levels of resorts at Walt Disney World Resort and what you get, because
Yeah, it's a
it's
question
not
I
the
get
same.
often. It is
Yeah,
not the same.
no,
Not the same.
not even close.
So I think first and foremost, we just talk about, well, what are we even talking about? And so
hmm
generally, we are talking about value resorts, moderate resorts, and deluxe resorts, right? And what comes into that. So we're going to break it down by a couple different categories. First and foremost, price, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, hands down, the value is going to be the most affordable option. Varying in cost, but maybe like $200 to $300 rack rate per night.
That sounds
You
about right.
can even get it less with a promotion or a certain time of year. This is very general pricing, though. Would you agree?
I will say this is October 2024. We can't speak to what's going to happen
It might
going
be
into
it
2025.
might
It
be
might be,
10,000.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, no, it's like 150, and I'm like, no, that's wrong, Kayla. Inflation. That is absolutely
It used to be. It used to
yeah.
be. And then the moderate resorts come into that mid-tier pricing, and you'll find out why as we go through this. But really, in that probably $300 to $500 range, and then deluxe resorts, obviously the most luxurious, most expensive option, but coming in with the most amenities, often proximity to parks. And again, we'll break that down for you. But in the 5 to 500
Whew.
plus, honestly, mostly,
Thousands and thousands
yeah,
and thousands
mostly
of dollars.
probably in the $700 to $900 per night range.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the average standard-ish room, like you're not going to be in a suite, you're not going to be in a villa, you're just going to be in like a two queen room. I'd say you're capping at like $1,000 a night at a deluxe, unless you're going like Grand Floridian theme park view over Christmas, and then maybe you're gonna be
Right,
paying like 1,400, 1,500.
right,
But
right.
for the most part, yeah, I'd say you're maxing out at like $1,000 for like the real, because again, there's like within deluxe, there's also like the subcategories of like, are you are you staying at Saratoga or are you staying at the Grand Floridian? And like,
Yeah, and I think that makes a great point. So every one of them sort of has a range, right? But and
mhm,
deluxe. Well, let's talk about room size and amenities and sort of why that range is of importance. So
yeah,
I'd say the standard value resort size, they're definitely on the smaller end. They're about 260 square feet, mostly coming with basic amenities. The caveat here is there are family suites in two of the value resort locations. So we're talking about Art of Animation and All Star Music have family suite options, so giving you two bathrooms, slightly more space. So that would be the two caveats with that. But generally, pretty small. A standard hotel room's only sleeping four people,
mhm,
and they have updated. They do use the space really intelligently with a Murphy bed often as one of the beds, so that it can fold up and become a table and give you some more space during the day when you're not using both beds. But just something to think about when you're
yeah,
booking that, because the walls are thin. They're thin.
so thin. They're so thin, and like, yeah, Murphy bed is great and all, but I don't personally. Have you slept on one of those Murphy beds? I
I
haven't.
have. It's fine because it doesn't fold
Yeah.
up, right? And the
Yeah.
alternative pre Murphy bed were that they weren't even queen beds; they were full size
Oh,
beds.
right. I
So,
forget that that
yeah,
is the
two
case.
adults
Yeah.
can't do that. Yeah.
As an
No,
adult that tried for like a month at my mom's house this year, it's
no,
awful. Absolutely
no,
not.
no.
Yeah.
So the next level up, the moderates, they are obviously a bit larger. Both the value and the moderate resorts are generally in a motel style. So you're going in an
Mhm.
outside entrance into your room from an outdoor walkway.
Yeah.
They're about 320 to 340 square feet. So coming in larger. They do have some extra amenities. I will note the one thing we should note is every room does have a cooler, like a
Mhm.
fridge, but not really a fridge. It
It's a
doesn't get
chiller.
a
Like, it
chiller.
doesn't get cold enough for,
It doesn't get
like,
below
don't put
40.
milk in it.
Well, you can put milk in it, but it doesn't get below 42 degrees, which is what it needs to do to be an official refrigerator. So sometimes with like
Yeah.
medicines and things, people, um, and they're going to have some form of coffee pot. So sometimes it's a
Mhm.
Keurig, sometimes it's a regular classic coffee pot. But if you want
The
a
Joffrey's
microwave,
coffee.
Joffrey's, the microwaves
Mhm.
are only in certain deluxe rooms.
Even
But
then, they're usually not in the room, so as someone who worked at a deluxe resort, our only at Wilderness Lodge, the only way to access a microwave was to come down to the quick service when it
right,
was
or
open.
they're in all villas,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
almost all
yeah. I'm
villas.
like, "What are you talking
Yeah,
about? No, there's
that's
not microwaves, don't lie to people."
that's what I was talking. So you got to book a villa at a deluxe resort.
One of
Uh,
the rooms are Art of Animation or All-Star Music. The
Correct,
family
unless it's the
suites,
family
those will
suite.
have yeah.
Right. So then the next up would be deluxe resort, right? Coming in 340 to 400 square feet. So pretty large. Um, Most of the deluxe resorts, with a few exceptions, sleep 5 people in a standard hotel room. Um, what we didn't mention was that the moderates, I'd say half of them sleep four and half of
Yeah,
them sleep five, right? They have like mixed. At Caribbean Beach, though, the fifth sleeper is literally that. It is meant for a child. It is not a full size twin. So,
yeah.
just things that you need to know before you book. But the deluxe rooms, obviously, the largest, the most upscale. The fifth sleeper here is usually either a pull down Murphy twin bed or a sofa that sort of folds down and becomes a twin bed, not out. And so that sleeps the fifth person, which is nice. And then you're generally, not always, but generally, the deluxe resorts are going to be hotel style, so interior
Mhm.
entrances into the room, and most, not all, rooms have balconies in the deluxe category.
Now I'm trying to think of where in deluxes they don't have hotel style. I can't think of are there some?
Old Key West and Saratoga Springs.
The ones I don't go to, got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yep. See,
Yeah,
see,
and I
see.
will say so something something that we're also, like, mentioning. The reason that I'm saying I've never stayed there is because I don't usually need a lot of space, and those 2 resorts are, like, 100% villa style. So they have rooms that are comparable to a standard 2 queen type of accommodation, but they're called studios. So, like, I am always like, I'm a get me as close to a park as possible sort of girl. I don't need the space, and those are 2 resorts that you can have a 2-bedroom with a washer and dryer, but you're also not as close to the parks. So,
Right. Right. So that is a good segue into the deluxe category, sort of talking about a couple different additional amenities or room styles that you can book. One, the villas that you're referencing, studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, even sometimes 3 bedroom villas sleeping up to 12 people. Or you also have options for suites and club level amenity rooms at every single deluxe resort, not deluxe villa resort,
yep.
so you have that option as well. So that adds even an additional layer of amenities, whether it's the full kitchen in the villa or the club level lounge and club rooms. So
Yeah.
definitely, I like staying club level.
Same. Although I will say that, like, club level when we should do a whole episode on club level. Stay tuned, folks. We'll have
we
an
should,
episode
we
all
should.
about club level because if there's one thing you know about Chris and I, we're some bougie bitches.
Yeah. Even if I don't stay there the whole trip, I'm getting there at some point.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the other differentiator is really the resort theming. Generally, at the value resorts, you're going to find fun, vibrant, larger than life, like Disney is in your face type.
Your
You
kids are
want,
gonna love it. Your small children are gonna think
yes,
it is the coolest place they've ever been in their entire lives because there is a life-size Lady and the Tramp, and there is a football helmet that is multiple stories big.
right.
Like, that is the cool
Yeah.
thing.
A 4-story high 101 Dalmatian, right?
Right. Is that what it am I wrong? Is it not Lady and the Tramp?
Yeah, there is
Is it
Lady and the Tramp, but you said
okay.
life size, but it's
Yeah. Oh, you're right, I did say no, you're right. It's gigantic. It's not.
it's 7,000 times life.
What life am I living that a dog is, like, 10 times the size of me?
Clifford. Um, so
Oh,
a little bit over the top theming inside the rooms. I would say the theming is pretty basic,
yeah.
but and then in the moderate level, you still move into that. It's immersive, right? But it's like a tropical or southwestern vibe at Coronado. There are only 4 moderate resorts and
Mm,
um, only 5 value resorts. So
yeah.
but they're large, right? The campuses of
They're
each of the
really
value and
big.
moderate are very, very large, sometimes multiple bus stops, which we'll talk about in terms of transportation. But the in the moderate, it's more refined and but still Disney inspired.
Mhm.
So some are doing better than others with that, but French Quarter with the New Orleans theming feels like you're in a whole nother place.
Yeah.
Coronado with that new tower feels almost like a deluxe, and
It feels like it I mean, you
uh,
got club level there. Yeah, it does feel like
yeah,
club level.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And then you have the deluxe, theming, which obviously is most upscale, but also most immersive, but a lot in most cases a much more subtle attempt to a Disney nod of sorts, right?
Mhm.
So, for example, in the Polynesian rooms, you have Moana in there, but it doesn't. You don't know it until you like pay attention, right? I'd
Yeah.
say the most in your face deluxe theming room is actually at the Contemporary with the
Oh,
Incredibles. You
absolutely,
quickly
yeah.
find out that when your pillow is Edna mode.
When you open the closet and it's got Incredible suits painted
Yep,
on the wall and you're like, "Wait, what?"
yep. But you're going to get more of that really intentional theming, like the African theming at the Animal Kingdom Lodge or the Victorian
Mhm.
theming at the Grand Floridian. So you're going to get
Yeah.
it's lots of detailed decor, elaborate landscaping, and it feels a little more sophisticated.
Mhm.
To meet the theme of whatever that resort is for sure.
Yeah.
So, um, the next thing, which not a lot of people ask about, but is important, are the dining options.
Mhm. Oh my gosh, yeah. So if you're at a value resort, your option is the food court. And again, remember, these are very large hotels. These are the largest of like all of if we took all of the hotels across Walt Disney World and you said which ones have the most occupancy, the value resorts have the highest occupancy available out of all of them. So you have one centralized food court at each of the value resorts. That centralized food court does typically have different stations because it's imagine like your college cafeteria.
Mhm.
That's sort of the vibe inside. It's like you've got one spot that you can get burgers, you got one spot that you can get pizza, you've got one spot you can get some pasta, another spot that has salads, and like you're really just you have a variety of options, but they're also like very basic. Like you're getting a cheese or pepperoni pizza, you're getting a bacon cheeseburger or a hamburger, you're getting a Cobb salad, like or a Caesar salad. Like this is it. You're not there's not like exciting options. And that's it. That's what you have in terms of dining. You don't have sit down dining options. You may potentially have the ability to walk over to another value resorts food court to give you a little bit more variety. And I'm specifically thinking of Pop Century and Art of Animation, where you can essentially walk a not short pathway, but you can walk from one to the other if you're wanting more variety. So, value, they do have bars. That is the one thing. If you are looking for an alcoholic beverage outside of beer or like a little glass of wine or like bottle of wine, there is typically a bar at every one of the value resorts. But that's it. That's all you got.
often a pool bar too, right? I
Yeah.
think there's pool
Yeah.
bars everywhere. So,
Yeah.
yep, that's it. You got that, which is fine. And they got some
Yeah.
fun, cool options. You can get like a Pop Tart sandwich at Art of Animation, right? But,
Right.
um, it'll do what it needs to do. But that's it. That's all
Mhm.
that's available. And then at moderates, you sort of have a mix where you have the cafeteria, food court style type setup, and then generally you do have one sit down
Sit
option
down. Yeah.
there. And then moving into the deluxe, you're going to have probably the most varied, not probably, definitely the most varied options. So you have a mix of the quick service option, which is that like food court, a much smaller though
Much smaller.
much
Yeah.
smaller quick service option. And then generally multiple dining, fine dining options with sit down with a waiter and so forth. So
Mhm.
you have, including in some cases, even having character meals at the deluxe resort. So,
Yeah.
um,
You do say fine dining, and I do wanna just, like, pause there and say each and I'm correcting Chris because I worked dining at a deluxe resort, so I know what the fuck I'm talking about. So so each, deluxe resort, you're gonna have your quick service option. The quick service is gonna be elevated quick service. So, like, yes, it might still be a bacon cheeseburger, but, like, they've got a special kind of cheese on it, or they have a specific, like, type of sauce that they're putting on it. Like, it's elevated. Also, they usually have house-made chips. Oh, so good. Anyways, we could do a whole episode on food at Disney too. See, like, we have so many ideas for things we're gonna
we
do.
do, we do.
So, so then you've got usually a casual sit-down option. So you've got like a not necessarily needing to get dressed up to go to, not that you need to get dressed up at Disney anyways, but like then you also typically have a fine dining option. And then you got your pool bar, but then you also have an actual like nice bar to sit down at as well. So that's it, you have options. You could never leave your hotel and have breakfast, lunch, dinner and a drink and go to different places. So um it's not like you're feeling like the value where you have the one option and that's it, or moderate where you have a sit down meal, but like you don't probably want to eat there every day. You have variety for sure.
And a lot of times they're spread out. So you have
Yeah.
access to something from your wherever your room is located in the
Yeah.
deluxe.
There's also usually, well, I shouldn't speak to this since the pandemic. There used to be room service.
So there is, as of the time of this in October 2024, there is room service at the Grand Floridian, right? Kind
Of
of
course.
keeping it the flagship deluxe resort. But yes, so that is currently, I believe, the only place. During the pandemic they had it, I think, everywhere, and now
Mhm.
it's shifted back.
Yeah.
Um, and then the next question is like, well, what's different about when we're at the resort? What are we doing while we're there? So every resort, let's talk about a few things that everything's going to have. They're all going to have pools.
More than one at every hotel. Oh.
All going to have more than one pool.
Mhm.
They're also all going to have usually like a main pool to go off of that more than one. Usually a main pool and then like a quiet pool that might be
Mhm.
unsupervised from lifeguards, but
Yeah.
that folks can go to. Sort of leaning it towards a more of adult only vibe, but that's certainly not the
Yeah.
case necessarily. But you'll find less kids there, and usually won't see any of the major like fun things. And then every every resort is also going to have a recreation team that's going to do some
Mhm.
sort form of events throughout the day at the pools, maybe on like a main lawn area showing movies. So there's going to be recreational things to do regardless of where you stay. Um, but breaking that down a little bit, the value resort pools are much, much larger to accommodate that many more people. And they have less, like, they have playful themes, but they have less amenities. There's not going to be any
Mhm.
water slides at any value resort. Um,
Mhm. No hot tubs.
no hot tubs, right? So at the moderate
Mhm.
resorts, you're going to get the water slides, and
Mhm.
at them, you're going to get hot tubs. Um,
Mhm.
Depending on where it is, you might have things like to do like boat rentals. But if you really want all of the things like kid splash areas, um, really awesome pools, awesome theming, you're going to have to go deluxe. So that's
Mhm.
really, in addition to that, they might even have cabanas for
Yep.
rental. at the deluxe resort. So if that's more your vibe, you need to be deluxe.
And I also, and I might be wrong on this, but I feel like there's more, the recreation staff does more at deluxe resorts. Like, I think about movies at night. Like, I've definitely seen at deluxe resorts where they do like s'mores and you can like buy a little s'mores kit.
Yep. So they do that everywhere.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
I
wrong.
think the issue is though, when you're staying at a deluxe resort, you see it more because
Mhm.
it's a much smaller space, right?
Yeah.
And people are directed into those spaces where they're doing that. Where at the value resorts, they're so large, they probably did it 5 times and you had no idea because you never
Right.
walked past that, right? Because so I think, and again, it's just something to think about as people are deciding on what is the best location for them.
Yeah. Oh, one caveat to all of this that I think is really important to mention too is because of the nature of value resorts, they're not necessarily as like landscaped as the other resorts. Well, both, I guess I should say value and moderate are not as landscaped as deluxe because you're driving your car up to the building that you're staying in. So, like, if you are needing to get somewhere around property, you're likely walking along a pathway that's in a parking lot. Or, if you're like cutting across, then you're going to see more landscaping. Where if you're staying in a deluxe resort, you're parking near the main lobby, and then you're not going to be anywhere near cars until you go back out to your vehicle.
Right.
So I think that for some people that, having your car closer to you is a positive. And so the value and moderate are going to give you that access potentially. If you can get a close parking spot, you may be parked way out and around the corner. But at a deluxe resort, you're feeling more in the Disney bubble, I think, than you are at a value or a moderate because of the fact that you're not seeing these non-Disney things, right? Like cars. Um, Walt would
Right.
hate that if there were cars.
I want to be in the middle, which actually is a good transition to our next differentiator, which is like location and transportation, right? And that's a big deal for people. I know it's a big deal for me. I want convenience. I want to be able to quickly get to where I'm going because Walt Disney World is a huge, huge place, right?
Yeah.
So value resorts, they're further from the parks, right? Now, that's not saying that all three all-star resorts are actually closer to Animal Kingdom than almost every other theme or every other resort, but
You
uh,
can't walk.
you can't walk, you have to get on a bus. So at the value resorts, it's almost bus only, except Pop Century and Art of Animation, which you can get on the Skyliner, which is the gondola
Mhm.
system getting you to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. So when they put that in, the value of
I see
staying
what you
at
did
Pop
there.
and Art
Wow.
of Animation definitely increased because you
Yeah.
eliminate a bus. The other thing about the value resorts, it's one bus stop and often like huge buses too with
It's
the
the
kid that
double bus, yeah. And the lines are so long.
so long.
You will not have the luxury of potentially walking up and hopping on a bus. Like,
No,
that's a thing that only happens at deluxe resorts, I feel like, where, like, you just happen to stumble up to the bus stop at the time that the bus is arriving and you got on no problem. That does not happen at a value resort. You
no.
will be waiting for at least one bus, or you might be standing room only. Like, if you walked up as the bus is approaching, you may be standing room on that bus.
And right. So the moderates are similar, with the exception of Caribbean Beach, with having access to the Skyliner. The
Mhm.
difference with the moderates are some of them have multiple bus stops.
Yeah.
So if you're going to, the Skyliner only gets you to two of the four parks anyway, so you have to take the bus. So at the moderates, you're going through multiple bus stops before you even leave the campus of that resort. So
Yeah.
that, again, kind of giving you an idea of how large they are. Um, you also sometimes have boat transportation, but really only to Disney Springs from the
Yeah.
moderate.
Yeah.
So, um,
And that another caveat of the moderates is that bus stop, depending on where you are, you could have multiple buses go by before you have one that you can get on, which
true.
is unfortunate. Because if you are the last stop before the Magic Kingdom bus goes to Magic Kingdom, and
Right.
they've stopped 4 times already and picked people I'm thinking mainly, like, I was gonna say rush hour. I'm thinking, like, early morning, you're trying to get to the park at open. They do have more buses running earlier in the morning, specifically recognizing that, like, everybody's trying to get to the park, but I've had instances where I've been at the bus stop that was the last bus stop, and they don't even come. And then you're like, "Why didn't anybody come? I don't understand what like, it said it was supposed to be here 10 minutes ago. Where is it?" And it's because it was full.
Right.
They're out of here.
So something to think about before you book. Um,
If you're driving your own car, though, it's fine because then you
right.
just get in
Or
your car and you drive.
if you don't need a car seat, you can just Uber a place to parks and be done with it.
Because again, Chris and I are bougie bitches,
I
and
can deal with
we're
that.
just picking up the
No,
rideshare and getting
I'm
the
not
hell out of
doing
here.
that. I'm not waiting for a bus. Mm-mm. I pay too much money and I like it too much to be here to be waiting for a bus.
And also, like, getting a rideshare to the parks is typically, like, between $10 and
Yeah.
$15.
Yep.
It's not like some ridiculously expensive if you're doing a minivan, okay, then you're
That
looking at,
is,
like,
yeah,
$50.
that is
But
expensive.
if you're just getting a regular rideshare, not that expensive.
No, and not, you're in a situation where you're asking yourself, how much is your time worth? Right.
Mhm.
And so if
Exactly.
spending $30 round trip on an Uber per day saves you 30 minutes, it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
So then you have deluxes, and again, not true of every single deluxe, but generally speaking, much closer to parks,
So
often walkable, right? So you have the Magic Kingdom ones that are on the monorail. You can walk from the
mhm.
Contemporary to Magic Kingdom. You
Quick boat
can
ride.
quick boat ride from or the monorail from Wilderness,
Mhm.
Polynesian, Grand Floridian. You can even walk to Magic Kingdom from the Grand Floridian now.
Yeah.
Um, you have the Epcot resorts where you can walk to Epcot and Hollywood Studios or take a boat ride if walking's not your jam.
Mhm.
So lots more options. And some of the deluxe resorts like Riviera do connect to the
The
Skyliner
Skyliner.
as well. So you're going to be much closer. You can see, some of them you can see fireworks from. They pump the music for Magic Kingdom through to the Grand Floridian, to the Contemporary, to the Polynesian, even to the Wilderness Lodge where you don't see it completely. But so again, your location is going to be much better, and hence partially the up of the room rate, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to move quicker. You're also, as you already pointed out, as Kayla already pointed out, you have less people vying for the bus and for the
Yeah.
boats and for the whatever it is.
Mhm.
So
And also your bus stop is closer at the parks.
true at the parks, you're going to be the
Because there is nothing worse than walking up to the buses and looking to see what number stop you're going to
and
and
it's the last.
realizing that you still have a quarter mile to go before you're at the bus stop that you need to be at for your resort.
Yep,
And
yep,
the one other thing, and I worked at Wilderness Lodge. So like Wilderness Lodge is always like top of mind for me. If you are like that is the one exception to the bus rule where you're actually Epcot Resort area too. You're sharing a bus sometimes with another resort. So
true.
Wilderness Lodge and Fort Wilderness typically share a bus, which also we should talk about Fort Wilderness in a second and how that what category that falls into and how that's sort of an exception from everything else.
Mhm.
Um, but also the Epcot Resort area, sometimes of the year, you will share a bus, yacht club, beach club. Do they still do Swan and like it used to be that it was like yacht, beach, boardwalk, and Swan and Dolphin all shared a bus.
They don't do Swan and Dolphin anymore.
Okay.
Swan and Dolphin has their own bus, but yeah. So I think what I've seen lately is that happens during real
Yeah.
slow times, and not so much as it once did. But um, it's
Because slow
definitely,
times used to exist a lot more.
yeah. No, they don't. So you bring up a good point. Then you have this Fort Wilderness, which has cabins and tent and
Campgrounds.
yeah, campgrounds for tents and RVs, and there is literally nothing outside of the dining. They do have the hoop to do review there,
If they do, yeah.
yeah, and the horses and stuff like that, which is fun for me for about 37 seconds, and then
Yeah.
I
That's fair.
don't want to be anywhere where somebody. It's just not my version of a vacation. I won't offend
Yeah.
anyone,
Yeah.
but it's
That's
not for me. It's
You
not.
very much don't feel like you're and I was actually having this conversation the other day. You do not feel like you're at Disney. You feel like you're really, like, in the middle of the woods somewhere.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've
Yeah,
definitely driven around there, and it has a huge, huge following, right, of people who are upset, like, who love camping, and it is
yeah.
I mean, if you love camping, who wouldn't love camping at Disney World, right? But,
Right, yeah.
it's not
Wait, but
real.
if you love camping, you might not love camping in 100-degree humidity.
No.
So there's
But those cabins that they do have are a nice option for folks to get bigger more space for less
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
So it
Yeah,
is something to
and they're newly renovated.
they're newly renovated. They sleep 6
Mhm.
people. They have a separate bedroom, a full kitchen.
Yeah.
Um,
They're
so
categorized as a moderate, right? Isn't that
they
where they
were before.
fall?
Now they fall in the villa
Oh.
category, right? Because when they were
Oh,
renovated,
that makes sense. Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
were, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think that has a lot more to do with like the recreational activities. Like
Mhm.
the pools are pretty basic in them.
Yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
so we talked a little bit. I really that there's a few other last things. And it really falls into that deluxe category where you might have things in the room like mouthwash and additional
Mhm.
amenities. But there is one of the perks that folks get who stay in deluxe that no one else gets, and that is generally twice a week a single theme park is open for an additional 2 hours at night for deluxe resort guests only. So you do get that additional benefit. And as of the time of this um, podcast,
Recording.
they are starting October 30th, 2024. They are piloting Premier Lightning Lanes, which is a paid for additional benefit for deluxe resort guests only, ranging from about $130 to $450 per park per person per day. But what it does is it gets you an additional lightning. It gets you a lightning lane to everything in that park if you're willing to pay it. So the point of me saying this is there are added benefits, some with cost, some with a fee, and some without, of staying at deluxe over value and moderate.
Yeah. And if you're like Chris and I, you're gonna pick the deluxe 90% of the time.
Well, you are. Well, and those added benefits have nothing to do with the resort, right? They're enhancing your park
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
right? Or your ability to access attractions and shows better than others. So,
Yeah. And I will say, as much as I'm saying that we're bougie and that we only stay deluxe, that's not actually true. I stayed at Coronado last time that I was gonna say the last time you and I went together, but that's not true because we went together like a month ago. But at the beginning of the year, was that the beginning of this year? Yeah. I don't know. Time is weird. But I stayed at Coronado then. I stayed in the tower, so I basically felt like I was staying at a deluxe resort. But I do stay moderate sometimes. I will say I probably won't ever stay in the cabins. Just because like it's a
yeah,
lot of space I don't need.
probably won't stay in the cabins. And I did stay the night before a cruise. Um, I stayed in Pop Century not all that long ago, and I will never do it again.
I was gonna
Uh,
say you sound really traumatized saying it. Like
it
you
was
seemed really emotional.
it was the worst. It was the worst. I
But
mean,
here's the thing, guys. If you here is what is important to know. What Chris and I do does not that's not us speaking on behalf of everything. Like what you do with your family obviously is going to look very different. I am a Four Seasons Ritz Carlton girly. You're not. That's okay. You might be a Hilton girl. You might be a Days Inn girl. That's fine.
no one's a Days Inn girl. I'm sorry.
I
But
was going to say Motel 6, but then I was like absolutely not. No one is like I'm a Motel 6 girl. Like that's not that's
no,
not true.
I mean, maybe someone, but I think you bring up a good point. So the question, like what you need to ask yourself is one, how much time are you spending there? Right. So
Mhm.
I think of the adult only couple who's going, or the people with when they say, hey, I have really active 16 and 17-year-old, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, so you're going to be at the park from the time it opens till it closes. You're just sleeping. Value might make sense. Put your money elsewhere on experiences.
Yeah.
And when a family like you and I, we're not at the park. We go often enough that we're not at the park all day long. So we
Yeah.
enjoy the resort. We're going to spend more time at the resort, or grandmom's going and she's not going to the park at all. Like then you should start thinking deluxe because people are going to spend more time at those places. You
Yeah.
want to enjoy what you're spending the money on. Or the last piece of advice is you can really decide what level of convenience and comfort and what has a dollar value attached to it for you.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that the Disney is they know what they're doing. They did a very good job naming these categories. Value is exactly that. You're getting you're getting a good amount for the money that you're spending, right? You're still on Disney property. You still have access to transportation. You're still getting it to take advantage of the early park entry that all Walt Disney World Resort guests get if they're staying on property, regardless of where you're staying. So, like, you're still getting an added benefit staying at a value resort. And if you're a family of six, and, like, staying in a value family suite might make the most sense for you, and
Mhm.
that I totally get that. I'm usually traveling with one other adult and, like, yeah, not spending a ton of time in the parks necessarily, and for me, those rooms don't make sense. But at the same time, that used to be what was most economical and made the most sense for me, and I've stayed at most of the value resorts at some point in time.
Or if you're even a
And
larger family of like seven and need two hotel rooms, so now you're talking two value rooms has to be just where the budget is. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
I will say, we'll wrap up with this. Will forever say I would rather, unless it's the Four Seasons, um, I would rather stay at a value resort than at an offsite hotel,
yeah.
right?
Oh, for
Because
sure.
I want to be in that Disney bubble, and you don't know what that means until you've experienced it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are enough luxuries afforded, again, to everybody at every level of Disney resort that you like the second you're staying somewhere else, you're not getting that.
Right.
Even staying at a campsite, you're still getting more benefits and more value out of that than staying at the Hilton across the street from Disney Springs.
Right. Right.
That's a lot of information.
It is, but it's a lot to take in and figure out what the difference
It
is.
is. And I hope that, I hope that Chris and I have been able to answer questions that you might have had about what these differences look like because it is really confusing and it's really overwhelming. You've never been, you have no idea what you're doing. And, Chris and I are professionals. We've been doing this for a long time at this point, and if you have more questions, reach out to us. We're happy to answer those questions in any way that we can, facilitate you. If you need help planning your trip, obviously, we're travel professionals. We're happy to help you with that as well. But until next time, let's just go.